So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Tamora. Tamora, go for it, whilst it's still working.
So thank you so much for bearing with us there. As you all know, I think, hopefully, the theme of this year's Infant Mental Health Awareness Week is bonding before birth. And that's because, as we know, the bond between a baby and its parent is like the foundation of a house. If the baby feels secure and strong attachment, if they feel safe in a relationship, they feel safe to explore the world around them. And the bonding process can begin early in pregnancy. Next slide, please. So we wanted to understand a little bit more about what parents knew and what they thought about this, and whether, when they struggled to bond, they were getting the help and support that they should be. So in April, we launched an online survey for women who've given birth within the last 5 years to get a current picture. And we were really pleased to have responses from across England, Northern Ireland, Scotland and Wales. More than 1,000 women took part in the survey, and thank you all who shared it. So this really does paint a current picture of women's experiences with antenatal care. You might have seen it on The Guardian this morning, or even on This Morning on ITV. So thank you for your patience waiting to find out the results. We heard from thousands of women and we received hundreds of comments. And in there, we found a lot of interesting insights, advice, tips that I think have a lot of useful application across different professional sectors and services. So we've made a short film about those, which we're just going to endeavour to play now, so that you can hear firsthand from the women and know more about what they told us.
Sensitive natural relation.
Got the audio, we're just working on the video.
Sensitive natural relationships between parents and their babies, fundamental to emotional
On the
contact.
small screen and turn it around, that would be fine. It's playing live to those who fall in love. And it's also just worth knowing the film is going to be live on YouTube imminently as well. So hopefully you should be able to hear and see it.
Right, this is all gone a bit peaked on me.
It's only consolation. The last week we began Chair the dyslexia one, we had exactly the same issues. So if people online could see it, we can see it in both. But it's nothing you've done.
Sensitive natural relationships.
Sorry, should I just sort of do that for now?
Fundamental to emotional attachment.
Yeah.
Pregnancy is a period of physical and emotional sensitivity. There is strong expectation of how things should feel. This can make it hard for parents to admit that they are struggling to bond with their baby.
And when it comes to me, having people understand me with and therefore it continues.
I thought there was something wrong with me because I didn't instantly love my son. And everyone else says things like, it's the most magical time giving birth, or at least your baby is safe and sound.
Baby's brain develops rapidly during pregnancy and can be influenced both by the physical environment of the student and the environment and relationships beyond. Domestic abuse and intimate partner violence in pregnancy has been linked to structural brain changes in babies. Some stress is both expected and normal in pregnancy. But severe untreated anxiety or depression in pregnancy is associated with higher rates of mental health issues in children. Helping pregnant women and their partners to bond with their baby during pregnancy is crucial to reducing these risks. The National Institute for Health and Care Excellence, or NICE, recommends professionals and practitioners discuss bonding throughout pregnancy, but this isn't happening. Parent Infant Foundation surveyed over 1,000 women about their experience of antenatal care in the UK. 64% said that nobody talked to them about bonding or building a relationship with their baby during their antenatal care. Over 70% of survey respondents would have liked more support in bonding with their baby during pregnancy.
It's difficult to have some more information about why it's important to try and bond with your baby. Felt some anxiety that I bonding too much with baby during pregnancy. Something might go wrong with the pregnancy and make it harder to deal with.
It's the first time anyone has ever mentioned this to me. My daughter is nearly 2. I've been someone that has given no advice or support with bonding earlier.
Most often, it's midwives who support parents in bonding during pregnancy, but high caseloads and staffing shortages mean they have limited time to talk. All of us who work with pregnant women have opportunities to discuss and give information on how parents bond with their baby, as recommended by NICE. And where there are complex issues like past trauma, mental health, or domestic violence, families may need specialist support. This support might be from parent-infant relationship services, which help parents overcome trauma and work through challenging feelings.
My midwife referred us to the parent-infant service to help with the bonding process. The psychotherapy sessions helped me give voice to feelings I had not felt able to say out loud. I began to feel more connected with my baby.
Support could also be from perinatal mental health services, which support pregnant women with depression, anxiety, or other mental health conditions.
I was really lucky to be able to perinatal mental health team. It was incredible helping me bond. If I hadn't been to this service, I wouldn't have had any support.
Every baby needs sensitive, nurturing care to thrive. By offering the right support during pregnancy, we can help parents to lay the foundations from the very start.
I need to get up again. Yeah, no, I felt a bit like that.
To part of that survey, and all the charities who shared it. So I think as we've just seen there, pregnancy is an ideal time really to reach pregnant women and their partners to talk about bonding relationships. And that's partly because there are just so many contacts during the antenatal period. So you can see here, 80% of women have 5 or more appointments, antenatal appointments. So it's just such a good opportunity, really. Next slide. But when we asked them when was bonding or relationships discussed, as you just heard in the video, mostly they don't remember that being discussed at all, in spite of the NICE guidance. But then there are also a small number here, 15%, who said that it was raised with them, but only after they had the baby, which is still, of course, a good thing, but it does miss the opportunity to intervene early and talk to women during pregnancy. Next. So the Royal College of Midwives are equally very concerned about the findings, and its chief executive, Bill Wharton, shared this comment. They understandably feel that midwifery is very much struggling with caseload and staffing shortages, and therefore today we are urging them to publish its NHS workforce strategy as soon as possible. Next slide, please. If you see the full report of survey findings, which is in the info contact, you can also go into a bit more detail and see some of the comments from the women about their experiences of antenatal care. And sadly, a number of these sort of described as being something of a tick box exercise. And the focus was very much in the view of the women on the sort of physical risks, which is of course understandable because of the importance of safety and physical safety through pregnancy. But they did feel that really they would like a fuller conversation about emotional well-being, and they would like to feel that it was acceptable to talk about their feelings at an early point. So we've reported that more than 1 in 10 women struggled to bond with their baby in the first few weeks, which is obviously really sad. But also it's important that we bust the myth. One of the women in the survey talked about the problem of promoting a Disney-like myth of a perfect labour or perfect pregnancy. So really, a lot of the comments spoke to the importance of recognising that pregnancy is not always an easy period. Having a new baby brings its stresses and pressures along with it. And actually, it's relatively normal not to bond until the baby is born. So some of the insights really around normalising people's experience, but at the same time giving people space to be able to talk about what are sometimes quite difficult feelings that they've been embarrassed or bad about feeling. Then, next slide, please. And should there be any professionals and practitioners who sort of feel reluctant to raise these sorts of subjects, they might be reassured to know that there's an overwhelming majority of women who would like to have more support and advice during their antenatal care. So a very clear 70% said they would really welcome this. And of course, what we need to do is make sure that they've got the support and training to know how to talk about these sometimes sensitive subjects. And just last week, Health Education England published some new e-learning resources that we were involved with that were based on experience and learning from the Greater Manchester Partnership. So there's some really good resources now available for practitioners and professionals so that they feel comfortable talking about relationships and bonding with parents. Next slide, please. There's some really interesting tips in here. We asked from a long list of 9 different activities and interventions that are sometimes recommended. What did the women think was the most helpful suggestion to help with bonding? And those 2 at the top, taking time to relax and feel baby's movements and having your partner or other children interact with your bump were twice as popular as some of the other options. The bottom option, the least popular option, was reading out loud to your bump, which doesn't mean it's wrong, but just goes to show that there might be suggestions you can make that people will be more likely to adopt. Next one. So the most prominent theme across the comments was just this desire to be able to discuss challenging and difficult emotions. And there's an example there from one woman that I'll just let you read about some of the complexity of feelings that pregnancy can trigger. Moving on, please. So our ask today really is that professionals take every possible opportunity, every contact with a pregnant woman or her partner to talk about bonding and building a relationship with their babies as recommended by NICE. There's some useful resources there available, and the commissioners were very keen, of course, to see that the integrated care strategies for the local areas includes babies, and that those consider the critical importance of the first 1001 days, because commissioners really have a key role to play in joining up services because of the whole array of services that can really help parents to bond. And then lastly, for policymakers, you will have seen some MPs already today tweeting their support for Infant Mental Health Awareness Week, which is great. And so we're asking parliamentarians to express support publicly to help raise awareness of this important issue. And of course, the RCM also very keen to see an NHS workforce plan that can help with some of the stresses and pressures on the professionals. So thank you very much for your support.
Great, thanks, Tamora. I hope we got through that and everybody saw the film and heard the audio. I think it's a really good survey and a lot of respondents to it. Some quite shocking results, but we'll come back to that in the Q&A again. Let's go straight over to Ben, who's going to give a case study.
Thank you. So today I'm going to talk about a family who's received support from my service in Lambeth. Before I tell their story, I'd like to give some background information about my service. I work in a specialised parent and infant relationship team, which is a small multidisciplinary team of child psychotherapists like me, a social worker, group coordinator and some infant mental health practitioners. My service sits in Cowes, South London and Maudsley NHS Trust, and we're also part of Lambeth Early Action Partnership, LEAP, which is a 10-year funded programme funded by the National Lottery Community Fund. Part of it's a Better Start initiative. Lambeth has some of the most ethnically diverse and deprived areas in the UK. 68% of children in LEAP areas are classified as living in very deprived households. My team offers direct clinical interventions for parents and their baby from pregnancy up to the age of 4. A key part of our offer is also supporting the local workforce through supervision, training and consultation about mental health. I want to show today how a team like mine has a unique place in the services that support babies and families in the first 1001 days, because the parent-infant relationship is our key focus. We know how important the parent-infant relationship is for future outcomes, and we know that that relationship begins before birth. So let's turn to the family, and this is a real-life case study, but names have been changed for confidentiality. The case links to the theme of Infant Mental Health Awareness Week, which is bonding before birth, and I'm going to read Michelle's story in her own words. As I go, I'm going to pause and offer some reflections, more context and links to research too. So let's hear from Michelle. She described herself as a Black British mother of 4 beautiful children, but she said my last pregnancy was really hard. My mood was low and I was feeling anxious. I was still traumatised by a previous birth experience. I needed blood transfusions and thought my baby and I were going to die. Having lost several pregnancies previously, I was convinced that this one would also end in tragedy. Let's pause. Here is a mother, Michelle, who has been traumatised by her previous birth experiences. In this case, it's what we might call perinatal trauma, a combination of loss, miscarriage and birth trauma. And it's worth noting that Black women are 4 times more likely than white women to die in pregnancy or childbirth in the UK. We also often have parents referred to our service who have experienced trauma in their own childhood, childhood history too, such as neglect, abuse, and parents who may have been looked after children themselves. These experiences can be stirred up by pregnancy and the arrival of a new baby, and trauma is one of the many risk factors which can negatively impact that crucial relationship between parents and their baby in pregnancy and also postnatally. Let's hear more from Michelle. As usual, I tried to look after everyone, but I felt guilty because with everything going on, I was struggling to bond with my baby. I worried I was neglecting and damaging him, albeit indirectly. I was not eating or looking after myself properly. I felt myself to be the worst incubator in the world. These are powerful words, and we can hear how Michelle was really struggling to bond with her baby. And research shows there's a clear link between the way parents feel about their baby in pregnancy and how they relate and interact with their baby postnatally. And we know just how important the quality of that parent-infant relationship is for future outcomes. Michelle talks about not eating or looking after herself and how parents feel about their unborn baby can also impact on their health behaviours in pregnancy too, including diet, smoking, alcohol and drug use, all of which we know are risk factors for birth and for future developmental outcomes. So let's continue. From Michelle. So to add to our worries, during the pregnancy, my partner John became unwell and his mother died. Scared due to his prognosis whilst grieving, he struggled to connect with me or the pregnancy. Let's pause again. It's really important that we think about fathers and partners too. So we know that a father's relationship with their baby starts before birth and needs supporting. Also, the way that fathers feel about their pregnancy is in itself a potential protective factor or indeed a risk factor to the relationship between mother and baby and to the mother's mental health. There is a correlation between fathers not wanting the pregnancy and mental health difficulties in mothers. And though it's not relevant to this case, intimate partner violence often begins or escalates during pregnancy, and research shows the devastating impact that partner violence can have on mothers and also the brain development of the unborn baby. Let's hear from Michelle as she begins to get support. My midwife was the first source of help. She was part of a continuity of care team, which meant I didn't have to keep repeating my story to different professionals. I saw her for all my antenatal appointments and felt well cared for. She meant the world to me. As part of the umbrella of services at LEAP in Lambeth, we are lucky to have a fantastic midwifery team. These are my words, not Michelle's, who use something called the continuity of care model. Having a named midwife who follows women throughout pregnancy, birth, and the postnatal period is proven to lead to more positive outcomes in pregnancy and birth. And our midwifery team are really attentive to the bond between parents and their unborn baby. So let's hear more from Michelle. My midwife referred us to a parent-infant psychotherapist to help with the bonding process. The psychotherapy sessions helped me to give voice to feelings I'd not felt able to say out loud before. I began to feel more supported with my baby, more connected with my baby, and John was supported too, and we all began to feel better. Let's pause again. So here Michelle mentions parent-infant psychotherapy, which is one of the many evidence-based interventions typically offered by a specialised parent-infant relationship team. Evidence shows that parent-infant psychotherapy can positively impact across 3 key domains. The baby, so infant development and well-being, the caregiver, their mental health, and that fundamentally important parent-infant relationship. And the trusted relationship between Michelle and her midwife was key to the referral to my service, because Michelle had difficult experiences with healthcare professionals previously, but she trusted her midwife, which helped her engage with our service team. Let's continue and hear about the birth. As feared, it turned out to be another difficult birth. My baby boy arrived several weeks early, and we both needed hospital care. This added to my belief that somehow I wasn't good enough to grow him, and in turn he didn't want to remain in what should have been the safest place for him. And she asks, was I deserving to be his mother? The parent-infant psychotherapy sessions helped me to overcome my worries while teaching me strategies to identify and separate true fears from true reality in order to build a positive relationship with my baby. Here we have an example of the importance of the flexibility of a parent-infant relationship team who can offer short and longer-term interventions antenatally and postnatally. Michelle and her baby needed more treatment postnatally to support the parent-infant relationship. Given the level of fear and disturbance that Michelle was experiencing in pregnancy, perhaps this wasn't a surprise. As I previously mentioned, there's a correlation between the way parents feel about their baby antenatally and the quality of that relationship once the baby is born. So Michelle finishes her story and she looks back. My son is now 2 years old and he's thriving. I'm so proud of my relationship with him, and he has a very special place in our family. The help from my midwife and parent-infant psychotherapist was vital. I feel lucky to have got such excellent support, and I believe this should be available to other babies and families across the UK. It's moving to hear Michelle talk so positively about her relationship with her baby, well now a young child. And I'd like to finish just by reflecting on Michelle's wish for support to be available to other families. So we know through the Parent Infant Foundation survey that not enough focus is placed on bonding before birth. We also know that there are only 45 specialised parent-infant relationship teams across the UK, which is not enough to meet the needs of babies and families. For example, Lambeth has a parent-infant team, but many neighbouring boroughs don't. Yet, parent-infant teams have a unique role to play. We work directly with a range of parents and infants with moderate and severe relational difficulties and with babies at risk. This involves parents who have experienced trauma in their childhood or more recently, babies who have needed neonatal care, parents with mental health difficulties, which is impacting their capacity to bond with their baby. In many of these cases, parents do not always meet the threshold of perinatal adult mental health services. Yet, the needs of the parent-infant relationship are serious, and this can put the baby at risk. Antenatally, this can result in parents fearing for their own or their baby's survival. perhaps rejecting the baby completely, unable to make that early bond, which is such a crucial building block to the future relationship and which ultimately can shape children's future outcomes. So I wanted to say thank you to everybody and thanks to Michelle and her family for agreeing to share their story.
Great, Ben, thank you very much. I hope everybody heard that. It's a really powerful case study, and Michelle's one of the lucky ones. The trouble is all those who are welcome here. We're going to move on to Maxine from NCT now. I'm just checking, are we monitoring the Q&A to see if there's any?
Yeah, if
problems
you
around?
remind people to put their questions in the Q&A, that's great. But if Maxine, you can deliver as loud and as clearly as Ben, no pressure, but everyone can hear him perfectly.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. It's lovely to be here and to get the opportunity to speak for NCT. So we're the largest parenting charity in the UK. We're best known for our antenatal business, but we're there for the whole pregnancy journey and through birth and into early parenthood, supporting parents with services and information. Because we move on a couple of slides. Yeah. Thank you very much. So I'm here to share a little bit of insight from our antenatal education and some of the solutions we see to the maternity care crisis and the impact it's having on parents and babies. Move on again, thank you. So, I mean, I think as everybody knows and acknowledges here in this room with the specialist knowledge and understanding we have, pregnancy is the most incredible time for engagement with parents. It's a real opportunity. Parents are very hungry, they want information, and they want to do the absolute best for their babies. So they're extremely motivated. Let's move on. I'm sorry. It's difficult. Yeah. So our model of antenatal education at NCT is parent-centred. It meets people where they are in their journey. It's an inclusive, non-judgmental process. It creates a safe space for them to explore high-quality information in an interactive and participative group environment. It helps them make friends, become connected to a network of local support, and helps them develop the awareness, skills, and realistic expectations and resilience they need as new parents. From different types of birth and infant feeding to postnatal recovery and newborn sleep, a key part of our approach is building understanding about their unborn baby, considering things from the baby's perspective too. So NCT Antenatal is based on 5 themes, including understanding and caring for your baby. We recognise the significance of parents connecting with their babies beginning in pregnancy. Biologically speaking, pregnancy hormones are developing and reorientating a mother's brain towards caregiving behaviours. And there's an impact on those she's cohabiting with too. A mother may naturally feel attuned to her baby and she may start to bond. However, as the Parent Infant Foundation survey is showing, this doesn't automatically happen for everyone. And the circumstances parents are living in may influence the time and awareness they have. Mothers, fathers, partners often need support to recognise the ways they can start to connect and communicate with their babies and the benefit. Understanding that connection they make with their baby during pregnancy and understanding that that's the beginning of bonding and it forms the foundations for close, loving relationships. This is covered in antenatal education through simple exercises and activities that raise awareness and give parents opportunities to try different approaches. We move on to the next slide. So as Zoe fed back to us, for example, the session when we've been looking at what babies can do straight after birth, like recognising their parents' voices, it completely changed my partner's behaviour. I could see how much he ran around after me and how much he talked to our baby and stroked my bump after that. And the next one, please. Sarah shared, the Womb to World activity really helped me understand our baby's experience, what it was going to be like, that we would need to comfort and reassure them. I suddenly understood the why, and it took away some of the stress about how terrible sleepless nights and no time for myself was going to be. I've even done some planning because I now know that I will be tired, so I've asked my stepmom for some help. Next, please. So, in our education, in our courses, we cover perinatal mental health as well, raising awareness about the common occurrences of anxiety, depression, and the other mental health problems that can occur in pregnancy or in the postnatal period, just to enable people to be able to get the support they need. As one mother reflected, I realised from talking to other people in my group that the things I was worrying about were similar to what other mothers were describing, but thinking about them all the time was not healthy. our practitioner talked about different kinds of mental health problems such as OCD. And then the penny really dropped for me and I decided to talk to my midwife. The next slide, please. So NCT works with parents in lots of different circumstances who are facing multitudes of challenges, from antenatal workshops that we run, specialist projects like New and Nurture, which supports hundreds of women and babies in the asylum system, have English as a second language. They're often alone, have very little security, through to the near tens of thousands of parents that have access to our courses and workshops for free through their local NHS trust or local council or CCG, who've been commissioned by NCT to provide those antenatal courses. Or the 80,000 plus parents a year who actually book themselves an NCT course because they know that they need support through the pregnancy journey. Another slide, please. Thank you. So, I mean, we talked quite a lot today about the changing maternity landscape and it shows that overall birth rates in the UK have fallen over the last decade, but the number of first births have increased, especially to mothers between 30 and 39, and more babies are being born by IVF than ever before. Family structures are changing, fewer parents are married or in civil partnerships, and more new parents were born outside of the UK and don't always have that extended support network of family and friends. Levels of anxiety amongst women and pregnant people is growing, and isolation is often talked about as a factor of mental health concerns. Around 1 in 5 experience depression or anxiety, and that figure is estimated to be similar for fathers and partners as well. This is a theory as we've talked about, because if it's left unrecognised or untreated, it can affect women, babies and their families for many, many years. And one of the key impacts is parents' ability to bond with their babies. NICE recommends that women are asked about their emotional well-being throughout their pregnancy and postnatal care as part of routine appointments. But societal perceptions of pregnancy as this happy and exciting time can sometimes get in the way and deter people from talking about it. Raising awareness is really important, particularly understanding and recognising common symptoms. Group antenatal education makes this possible. It really normalises these experiences for people, gets them talking about it. Next slide, please. Yes, for there. Thank you. So parents being well prepared, having built their knowledge and skills and confidence and their network of support through antenatal education, it does help build resilience for postnatal life. However, birth and early feeding experiences will have a huge impact on how well new parents cope and adjust. The 2022 CQC report on maternity experience show that women don't consistently get the support they need, and there's been a declining picture since 2019. We know it's a main big government priority, but the proportion of women and other pregnant people who get the help they need when they contact a midwifery team, for example, antenatally, has fallen to only 69%. Only 59% were always given the information and explanations they needed during their care in hospital. And there's been a decline in birth experiences too. The disparities in care people receive persists as well. The Black, Asian and mixed ethnic women and those living in less affluent areas are significantly at higher risk in pregnancy and birth. Antenatal education improves how people feel about their experiences, but only 30% have offered it through the NHS. Access to support is a key part of enabling women to feed their babies how they want to, but only 45% said they could always get support or advice about feeding their baby. So we know that midwifery care is being stretched too thinly. So NCT stands alongside many other charities and organisations like the Parent Infant Foundation, calling for more investment in maternity services, calling for the workforce plan to address these issues. But we also are realistic and we see some immediate solutions. NCT sees itself as part of the maternity ecosystem of delivering high quality care and support, from our free to access infant feeding line to our antenatal and our postnatal talks, workshops, courses, our volunteer-led groups. We have practitioners, peer supporters, volunteers across the country who do this work day in and day out. NCT believes in the transformative power of antenatal education and believes that all parents should have access, whether they can pay for it themselves or whether it's free to access through the NHS. NCT trains its own practitioners through an outstanding university accredited training course, and we have a serious part to play in supporting maternity services through the challenges in workforce capacity and could relieve some of the pressure on midwives to deliver clinical services by delivering antenatal education to all parents. So I'll leave you with my final slide, our call to action, NCT's vision for the future. And something we could begin to realise with access to high quality information and support through NCT's provision of antenatal education to all parents. Thank you very much.
Okay, Maxine, thank you very much. I think the slides worked fine for that, and interesting points that we all know about the shortage in maternity care and the maternity care ecosystem, as we described it. Right, finally, I'm going to hand over to Andrea Leadsom, who doesn't need any introduction. Can you put any questions and points you want to make in the Q&A, please? And then we've got some time after Andrea to take points for all our speakers so far. Andrea.
Thank you very much, Nick. First of all, is it all right if we just do a little photo of everyone for social media saying here we are talking about awareness? Is that okay? Yeah. Go on, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, very sorry.
Bear with us online.
Great, thank you very much, guys.
Thank you. Not to waste any further time.
We do an action one just while we're talking as well.
Yes.
Thanks everyone who's there online. It's always much harder when you're not in the room, but this is a gloriously warm room. It's fabulous people in it. I'm for you. And I completely agree with Ben. I completely agree with you on NCT. I completely agree with Tamora. This is exactly the right thing. I myself got involved with parenting with psychotherapy just about 26 years ago now, going on and on and on. And I was also involved with one of the first phase 1 short starts in Rosemary in Oxford. So everything everyone said about continuity, helping families, supporting families is absolutely right. And of course, what we all know is that families, far from this being, oh, nanny state, they're telling me what to do with my baby. They're like, no, please tell me what should I do with my baby. So when we did our research into this, which has been going on for years, but in this final Best Start for Life project I'm chairing for the government, we did the research between June 2020 and March 2021. Sharon, MP for Labour, Simon, a member of the Lords, Tim, Conservative member, lots of other people who aren't in the room. We're all closely involved as the Parliamentary Advisory Group, and we're all completely aligned on this issue. So just to reassure you there that there's nothing strange or different. This agenda is our shared agenda. But Tim wanted me to give you an update on where we are. So what I can tell you is that the Start for Life unit is made up of 40 brilliant committed civil servants who sit within the Department of Health and Social Care. But since my role as chairman of it as a backbencher, so I'm not a minister, I'm a backbencher, but my role as chairman has been extended until the end of this parliamentary period, so until the next general election. And so I insisted that as part of that, that the project would continue to be overseen jointly by the Health Department and the Education Department, because those who've been involved with government for years will realise that it's always in silos and it's so difficult. It's no, that's not my department, you'll have to go over there and ask. So the really important thing to this has been having both Claire Coutinho as Children and Families Minister and Neil O'Brien as Health Minister, Maternity Minister, actually sponsoring this project. And at the same time, when I was chairing this as leader of the Commons back in 2017 under Theresa May, the ministers who were involved with the interministerial group then were one Rishi Sunak, who was a local government minister, Liz Truss, who was the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Will Quince, who was Children and Families Minister, Nadine Zahawi, who was the DWP Minister. So actually this has gone around my party, your party. You know, I was great friends with Tessa Dowell before she sadly passed away, and have continued to be great friends with Frank Field, and we're absolutely on the same agenda. So please don't ever think that this is tribal, political, it's a cross-party agenda, and I pay tribute to all colleagues of all parties on this. So where we are, we have these 40 civil servants overseen by 2 departments, and what we've done since March 2021, when we launched the vision for the first 1,001 days, Best Start for Life, is we then spent the next 6 months, so from March 21 to October 21, trying, on the one hand, to get local authorities to sign up to doing this and rolling out the Best Start for Life, and I'll come back to exactly what else involves. But then in October 21, we also spent half our time trying to get money, because that's what's really important. So Rishi awarded 500 million quid to this whole agenda, and it was the single biggest new spending commitment in October 21. 200 million went to supporting families budget and 300 million to the Family Hubs and Best Start for Life programme. So since October 21, the team have chosen 75 upper tier local authority areas. That's just under 1 and 2. There's 153 in England. It's a devolved issue, so this is England only. So 75 of the 153 were chosen on grounds of levels of deprivation indices, but also in order to avoid all being sort of inner city areas. There's also 25% of them are rural or semi-rural. So it includes places like Northumberland and Cornwall, but it also includes lots of inner city areas. It includes the Isle of Wight, it includes East Sussex, Kent, Sunderland, where I was. Yeah, sorry, I didn't join me, but I had a great time, thanks. And yeah, they were lovely. And so of those 75, they were all invited to sign up for the rollout of the Family Hubs and Best Start for Life programme. All 75 did. Nobody said, no, you must be joking. And what that required is that they signed up to a big delivery programme, which meant that they would have to find buildings, not build buildings, but find buildings that they would convert to family hubs. Now, lots obviously converted Sure Starts, others converted council buildings or church halls or whatever they wanted. But the idea is that they were funded for the transformation to family hubs in 75 local authority areas. And it was for them, it is for them to decide how many they need. And the idea is that the family hubs are both physical spaces, so buildings with rooms in. They're also virtual spaces, because one of the things we learned during COVID is families really want to be face-to-face, but actually, particularly for dads, I would feel much more comfortable talking about my mental health issues or my challenges being a dad online than physically with a bunch of women and babies around, frankly. So physical and virtual, and of course, if the baby's just pooed and you've just missed the bus, so you're not going to make your health visitor meeting, then actually, why not go on Zoom? So that facility is absolutely central. But also outreach. So the family hubs are buildings, they're virtual, and they're outreach. So whether that's mobile or in a church hall once a month. So in Cornwall, they've got 23 family hubs. Some are all singing or dancing, and others are actually relatively small, and they have sort of different sections every week. And they're also going to be trying the mobile. Northumberland are using all of their fire stations because they're warm places. Northumberland isn't up warm, probably is today, but you know, so it's a nice warm place to go with lots of space. Your toddler can, I suppose, play with the fire. You're not quite sure if that's illegal or not, but anyway, so you can have your family hub sessions, your midwives, uppers with weighing, parenting programs, etc. at that point. So 75 local authority areas are racing to roll out this programme. So all the things you're talking about, they are dealing with, and I will come on to that in a second. But of the 75, 14 of them are trailblazers. And those trailblazers are going further and faster. They've had a little bit extra money to get them to be the leaders. And the 14 trailblazers, I'm visiting all of them before the end of July. The ones I've been to so far, Trailblazer is Sunderland, a trailblazer is Northumberland, a trailblazer is Durham, a trailblazer is Torbay, a trailblazer is Cornwall, a trailblazer is the Isle of Wight, East Sussex, Kent. So there are lots of trailblazers, a really good spread around England, actually. That's just taxing my memory. Beyond me, sorry, but I'll let you know. But it's definitely one of the 75, if it's not one of the 14. So that's what we're doing. So we're really pushing to get this rolled out. And so what I'm looking forward to is the day that the family system, you know, I found I was pregnant and then I got this Start for Life offer, and then suddenly I was swept up and everything was given to me, and I'll be like, yes, we've arrived. But we're a long way off that, as you will appreciate. It's still early days. So what are these family hubs and Start for Life going to do? As you know, the family hubs go from conception to 19 or 25, where there are learning disabilities. But every family hub must have a Best Start for Life offer within their doors and virtually. And that goes through pregnancy to age 2. And what that must involve is midwifery in your family hub. So in my opinion, and lots of local authorities are doing this, is you will have your antenatal sign up in a family hub, and your partner, if you have one, will be invited. Why? Because surely you both want to hear the baby's heartbeat, don't you? And whilst you're here, let me give you your Start for Life offer and show you around the hub. So that's the idea, is that laser engagement for people, is that will happen in the family hub. And so you'll have midwifery antenatal in the family hub. Every family hub will give you a Start for Life offer. So universally, every single person expecting a baby or surrogate or whatever it may be, adopting a baby, will be given a Start for Life offer, which will both be a piece of paper that says, here's the services that are available in your area, here's when they're available, here's the phone number, and here's even a schedule. And then also almost all, and almost all already have this, is have a digital version of that. So it'll be on the website, and there'll be links, and lots of them actually in, I think it was Sunderland, they have a QR code. So every midwife and health visitor has a little sort of fob that they attach to their name badge with a QR code, and they say, right, there you go, download that, you put your phone against it, and it comes up with the Start for Life offer. Brilliant. So we're sharing that all around the country. So that's your midwifery and your Start for Life offer. In addition, in your family hubs, you'll have your health visitor appointments. So you'll have parenting programs antenatally delivered by health visitors or family hub workers or Start for Life workers or family hub champions. I'm throwing out all these job titles because all of these jobs are very relevant, all have a part to play. And I met this lovely young woman up in Durham who had a Best Start for Life jacket on with a little Best Start for Life logo and a stalk with a baby in its beak. And she was telling me how she'd been supporting this young couple because she was doing some smoking cessation, and she went to their home. They were expecting their first baby, and she said the house was a tip, and they weren't just smoking, but there were also drugs involved and all sorts of other problems. And she said after working with this family for a relatively, she visited them at home for several weeks, and suddenly everything was so much better because it was actually about education. You know, I've heard stories about young mums feeding their babies Cocoa Pops because I want her to have the best, because I like her so much. She's 3 months old, Cocoa Pops. So much of this is about education and helping families to have the confidence to know what's the right thing to do. And that is the point of the family hub, is giving you that parenting class beforehand, but also the socialization. So like with the NCT, and I sincerely hope the NCT will be commissioned to do a lot of this work in the family hubs, is where you're, you know, Princess Catherine, a migrant from Somalia or wherever, teenage parents, same-sex couple, adopted couple, will all be sat around learning about parenting together, because it will be completely destigmatizing. And that was one of the things that parents and carers said to us in the research phases. You know, short starts were great, but I just felt really stigmatized. And that, so making this universal is absolutely crucial. And of course, it's universal and universal plus. There are those who will need much more support. So you'll have, to recap, your antenatal and your Start for Life offer and your health visitor visits antenatally. And then obviously a lot of these will be at home, but when they're not at home, rather than in the surgery up there or the hospital over there or somewhere else over there, they should be in a family hub, which is, you know, if you want to kind of go to Tesco or Aldi or Sainsbury's, and if you're having a baby, go to the family hub. So it'll be a brand that everybody knows about and everybody uses. And then when you have your baby, that will be where you can go for breastfeeding support or infant feeding support. But actually, I mean, this is one of the big challenges in England, is our breastfeeding rates are some of the worst in Western Europe. And we know the incredibly positive outcomes for bonding, for mum's physical health, for baby's physical health, for brain development and so on. There was an Oxford University report just last week about how you're 5 times more likely to get a star at English GCSE if you were breastfed. Some extraordinary thing that was really quite compelling work. So actually breastfeeding support, there's so many women, if you do a Mumsnet survey as I have, then you'll see so many women, something like 80%, give up breastfeeding before they wanted to because they don't feel supported, because it's so difficult. You know, you wouldn't put your 6-year-old on a bicycle and say, you go, but that's what we do with breastfeeding, and it's way harder than riding a bike. Definitely. So breastfeeding, and then of course parenting for relationships. So support for relationships, whether it's therapeutic baby massage, video interaction guidance, Incredible Years, Watch, Wait and Wonder, other parenting programs, Triple P Baby, or indeed, really importantly, is parenting and psychotherapy, which is where I got started 25 years ago, and I'm a massive supporter of that therapeutic relationship. It's life-saving, and it's so important for both parents with their baby to develop that relationship. So that's the idea of the Best Start for Life programme. And as I say, 75 are rolling this out, 14 faster than the others, and those 14 that are supporting the others. Out of interest, I mean, as I said, I've visited 5 now, the ones in the northeast, and also Cornwall and Torbay. And out of interest, they are coming up with some brilliant extra ideas. And we've done webinars with all of the 75 who've come up with things like a financial health check for you from the Citizens Advice Bureau online whilst you're in the family hub, if you'd like to. Brilliant idea. Or, you know, going through your maternity and paternity rights, so that you know that actually when your boss at Tesco said you've now got to go back to work because you'll have to pay back your statutory maternity pay, which I thought was quite interesting. Obviously you don't, but to actually be told that is incredibly reassuring. Obviously things like smoking cessation, intimate couple violence, debt, housing, etc. All of these things being offered through the Family Hub network is a real one-stop shop for the early years, all absolutely vital. But also importantly is pulling together the evidence so that at the next spending review during mid-25, whether it's Labour or whether it's a Conservative government, there will be the evidence that says, yes, this is not only working, but it's proving so valuable that we need to actually expand the programme right across England and keep funding it and expanding it. So I'm incredibly hopeful. There's lots of national initiatives going on with Start for Life around training, trauma-informed care and reflective parenting. And there's also some training of parenting and psychotherapists going on. There's also a pilot on workforce, multidisciplinary workforces in family hubs, so that we can actually see what really works well. There's also some work on key contact for every family. So instead of having 8 different therapists of different sorts, we've got one person who you can just always go to, Fred or Jane, and they will always be able to point you in the right direction. So there's a huge amount going on, and it's all incredibly positive. As you can imagine, there's loads of problems with it. And my big ask for all of you is to please, in your area, contact your local authority director of children's services and say, who is the accountable Start for Life leader in this local authority? Can I talk to them, please? Why aren't you commissioning my services? So one of the biggest problems of all is getting the local authorities to think more broadly than the statutory sector. So as we've heard a few times, we need more midwives and we need more health workers. Yes, but we also need many more people in the NCT who are volunteers, who are infant feeding, volunteer supporters, mental health, people who are like, yes, I know I have that problem myself, I know how you feel, but who are volunteering. And unfortunately, quite often I think it's not in the local authority mindset to bring those people in. So the voluntary sector, the charity sector and the faith sector, who are so keen to get involved and often get left out. So there is a big ask from me, but please do push to be included. Thank you.
Great, and brief. So, thank you very much. We've got a little time left for questions, which I hope we have got on online. And I'm going to group several together. Thank you very much. They're now winging their way, high-tech hard copy piece of paper. I'm going to try and read. Will there be a nationally funded programme supporting the rollout of parent-infant relationship teams, just like perinatal mental health teams? That's one. How can we ensure there are free antenatal classes for parents who would benefit the most? And will family hubs be rolled out across the country to support expectant parents? And do you want to go first and take any of those? Then I'll come to.
Yeah. So the 3 funded, so apart from the money for family hubs roll out themselves, the funded services are 100 million for parenting and relationship teams, which includes perinatal mental health, 100 million pounds for the 75, and there's 50 million pounds for parenting programmes universally for the 75, and there's 50 million pounds for breastfeeding support for the 75, and that's to be spent by mid-25.
There's an allocation. Each of those are subdivided out, each about it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Ben, Maxine, you got a comment?
What
Any of the 3? points there, so.
In terms of how we could make sure that everyone has access to antenatal education, it's also a level of awareness as well, I think. And so that would happen through midwifery, but I think it's also, there are lots of partnerships going on in the charity sector and the NHS now, which enable information sharing really early on in pregnancy, and things like that would really make sense. And NCT needs to pay for its services like anyone else does as well. But the NHS in lots and lots of areas commission us, CCGs commission us, councils commission us, but it's just not very joined up at the moment. And so I think some of the data sharing possibilities perhaps might be the way to make sure that everybody is reached universally really early on in pregnancy.
Can I ask you whether the Start for Life teams in local authorities are commissioning the NCT to deliver parenting programs?
Not Start for Life yet.
Is that, there is 50 million quid?
Yeah, no, we know, and we've been asking questions, and
yeah,
it's
Is it because they're commissioning somebody else, but not at the point of commission yet?
not at the point of commissioning yet.
Right.
that is possible, but that's why my big ask
Yeah,
is
yeah.
to push for you to contact them.
Yeah,
Ben, yeah.
I know something about parent infant and specialised parent infant relationship teams, of which Pairs in Lambeth is one of those. And I know the Parent Infant Foundation, is working tirelessly to try to grow the number of parent infant teams, and how they're a hugely important complement to the excellent work that the Start for Life Universal Plus and targeted services. But there's a cohort of parents who do and will require that more specialised intervention, such as parent psychotherapy or a range of different interventions. And I suppose it's just saying, I'm really glad that point was made, because it's that multidisciplinary, multi-agency approach focused around the baby. And I would just urge, and I think where we try to really encourage the local authority to link up with health and CAMS, so that actually there's that link up between these parents that are going to really make use of these interventions, but perhaps need more, or perhaps need more straight away. So I think that's really important, the kind of linking up between specialised, targeted and universal.
I completely agree with you, and that is why there's 100 million, that's a full third of the entire Family Health and Start for Life programme, is for parent relationship teams at a sort of universal level, but also for those specialist services. And actually the real challenge, and I came to this through Oxford, which does exactly as you do in Pairs, and the real challenge is the lack of qualified parenting specialist therapists. And so that's something Keith and I talked about a lot. And there are, anybody who provides training for that, there just isn't, there aren't the parenting psychotherapists at the moment. And that's, therefore, there is a sort of a move to creating some parent and infant relationship services as those, as that workforce grows.
We've got 5 minutes. There's a question about survey tomorrow. I can ask you. If baby friendly standards includes bonding with babies and is being delivered in every hospital, was the survey just completed by mums who had a difficult time?
No, the survey was open to all women who've given birth within the last 5 years. There's a small report on the findings online. My understanding of the sort of baby-friendly standards is that, of course, some areas are already meeting them and others are working towards that. So really what the survey reports is the women's actual experience. And I think we've seen in the report findings that unfortunately bonding and relationships are just not being raised often enough, certainly not throughout the pregnancy, and in many cases only when baby's born, and the majority there's no recollection of it having been raised at all.
That's across the piece. Finally, Ben, can I ask you one here? Is bonding a problem just for parents who have depression or experience trauma?
Not at all. There's many different risk factors that might impact on that relationship, of which trauma, anxiety, depression, just examples of, but social deprivation. I think that's what's crucial, actually. With the kind of adult perinatal mental health services are really serving mothers with severe mental health difficulties well. But there's a whole group of parents who may have kind of more mild to moderate and mental health difficulties, or families that are experiencing a different range of experiences or risk factors to that parent-infant relationship that potentially are not getting that relational support, although we hope that with the kind of Sark-Life family hubs, that will increase the capacity of that. But that's a really good question. It isn't just hormones question, it's much wider than that. And it's mothers and it's fathers and it's partners and it's, the whole family.
I'm afraid we're going to have to stop it there. I can't see further questions coming on Q&A. We will pick those up at President from Foundation. If there's some specifics there, we can go back and after we do, we will. The video is going to be available online. Now, all the findings are available on the President Foundation website as well, so all the survey details are there in full.
And Michelle's story.
And the specific story that we showed as shown here by Ben. Thank you very much. So go there for more information. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining. Sorry about the technical problems at the beginning. I hope everybody heard Sharon.
I just wanted to say a quick thank you to Andrea and the team for having sat on your review and the excitement to hear it all come to fruition and to sort of be the next iteration following on from Sugarstar, which I know the other side of that was we've sort of diminished. But it's great to hear that those buildings are some of the ones that are now getting used. It's all very exciting and it's much needed.
So to end on a great bit of cross-party consensus there, it's been a long time coming. There's still a lot more to do, but frankly, it started within this group, which I just set up over 10 years ago now, and the way it's brought together various interested parties kept the pressure up on government, and is now being seen through. So
we've got to protect it, no matter who's in government.
Absolutely, and that's really a really clear point, and I hope that will happen. All of us in Parliament will do whatever we can to make sure that happens. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening. We'll let you know when our next meeting is, either in person, so we don't have technology problems, or we'll do a trial run beforehand to make sure you can hear the sound right from the start. But thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. And thank you to our speakers. Fantastic.
Well, exactly.
Great. Good.